Last week, my wife's brother passed away, totally unexpectedly. And he had been retired just a very short time. I said, man, there's never going to be a good time. There's always going to be something that needs to be done. There's always going to be a crisis. My wife didn't even know that I was going to pull the trigger on this until I sent her a text message Tuesday morning after I talked to the city manager, because I kept on putting it off. I love this department. I love the people that work here. General public out there has probably got different ideas about some of us, but there's not an individual in this department that doesn't want to try to do the best job they can. Do we make mistakes? Yep. Sure do, but I've always been one that if we make a mistake, that it gets corrected, and that's about all you can do. They're human beings, and they're going to make mistakes. So why do I stay in it so long? I think it's because I enjoyed the job, enjoyed the people. It just finally hit me in the face that it's time to go. When I was a kid here in Paris running the streets, I had gotten involved in a traffic stop with a Paris police officer. Was very inconsequential, didn't mean to even upset anybody. We pulled up alongside him at a stoplight. The friend's car that there's three of us guys in this little Volkswagen Beetle. If you didn't give it a little gas every now and then, it would die. And so he's kind of running the engine a little bit and goosing it a little bit, and the officer looked over like he thought we were trying to race him. Then I was stopped for speeding by DPS. But I just have to be very frank that the first officer was pretty much a jerk. The DPS trooper was professional. So I saw right then that, well, there's a big difference in how people can do law enforcement. Went to the junior college, was going to do data processing. During that time, I went to work in this building when it was Yarco. Had my first opportunity for a computer programming job that paid about $2 less than what I was making driving a fork truck. So I thought, man, that's not going to work. But remember those experiences I had. A lot of people mentioned that Tyler was very, very particular about who they hired. The only place I'd applied for and went to work there in January of 1975. The first training officer I was with, I think he had been 17 years on patrol, and he knew how to treat people. Took tests here in Paris, got hired here. 4 or 5 years on the street as an officer, worked a little bit of undercover, was promoted, and worked probably another 10 years or so as a sergeant, promoted to lieutenant. There was a good stint in there that I was over personnel and training. That was very important to me to make sure that we give the proper training to the officers. Went from there to lieutenant over services. Was involved in the creation of the SWAT team in 1990. Moved to assistant chief, and then was hired as chief in is either August 9th or August 10th of 2009. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that there's a little bit of an adrenaline rush when you're after the bad guy, when you're in a foot chase or you're in a car chase or something like that. You got a little bit of fear because you're going to catch them, and then what do? When you have stopped something from happening that was bad, or you have something that's going bad for somebody, a car wreck, a house fire, and you're able to get there and help somebody get out, or you help somebody survive until EMS gets there, or something like that, those are the good parts. There are crooks, and that's what I'm going to call them, who don't like getting caught. They're going to fight, and they're going to be violent. I've never enjoyed a fight I've been in. It hurts, okay? But at the same time, that's what your job is. You're supposed to go get that person and put them in jail. It's almost sounding cliche to help people out, but when you help people out in a lot of different ways, that's the best part of this whole thing. I think one of the most chilling interviews I've been involved in with somebody is we caught a burglar after the fact. They had burglarized a hardware business downtown. During the interview with him, the detectives came back and told me that this guy said he had a gun that night and had you in his sights, and at the last minute decided not to shoot you. Now, that may have been just BS, but the unfortunate reality is probably isn't. When I started, I rode in a car with somebody for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks, and then I was out on my own with no academy training. I was hired in June. Did not go to the police academy until November. The police academy at that time was all of 6 weeks. Basically, you kind of sit there and breathe and you graduate. Now, when somebody sends a new officer to the academy, it's 22 weeks. Then they're in the FTO program on job training about another 22 weeks. I can even remember the first time I worked a burglary of a church, and that was probably in like 78, 79, somewhere in there. It was astounding to me. I understand people breaking into business, but I never understood breaking into the Lord's house. Once your moral compass goes to that part, then that's an indication that we're going down the wrong path. We have a standing joke, if you're a police patrol officer and you can raise a family, you're a financial genius because you don't get in this job to make money. No chief I don't care who it is, who the next person that will sit in this chair. They only succeed if their people succeed. You know, we started the Citizens on Patrol, the Citizens Police Academy. That did really well. We've got a lot of people that didn't have any idea what cops were and what law enforcement was. They've got so much better understanding of what's going on. We went through a lengthy best practice recognition program. And when we got in 2013, I think it was, we were only the 63rd police department in the state that had attained that accreditation out of about 2,500 agencies. You have to show them on paper what your policies are, and then you have to come up with proof of compliance that you're following those policies. Well, there's 168 standards that we have to meet. So I'm very proud that we're recognized. This whole department lives and breathes by the people that work here. One uniformed officer can destroy the reputation of everybody in this department. What I tell every rookie, if you're involved in something and you're doing something and it doesn't feel right to you, it's probably not. You have to be in control of yourself better than you've ever been before. You have to be able to really understand what your words mean when you say them. You really have to understand your body language. You get into a fight or something like that, what the law enforcement objective is supposed to be is get them under control, get them in custody, and everybody is safe. And I mean everybody. If you're involved in something and it doesn't feel like you're doing right, probably ain't. If you're there and something's going on that doesn't need to be going, you have to step in. You know, this morning when I woke up and got up and started getting ready to come to work, the load felt a little lighter. I think what I'm looking forward to is not getting those phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right now, I worry about 85 people every day. A lot of them may not think so or think it's lip service or anything, but I constantly worry about their safety. I'm still going to volunteer for the Best Practices program. I'm going to see my kids and grandkids. I'm not going to miss another ball game. My wife just retired last month. We see each other either passing or see her for a brief time in the morning, see her a brief time in the afternoon. That may only last a month or two. She may get tired of me, I don't know. Those are the things I'm looking for. I am not going to run for public office. I don't think I'm going to be involved in law enforcement any further. I think I've done enough. And I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try my best to not to do anything for a little while.